Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. Today's gunner site has a slightly new look. General Raj Shukla and General Harimohan Iyer couldn't make it, but we have Major General Rajiv Narayanan joining us. General Ravi Shankar, General Narayanan, welcome to P Guru's channel. How are you, sir?
Oh, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Always a pleasure to be on your platform.
We are
So
having
the pleasure
a
is all. Yes, indeed. You're having a ball in Chennai. It's raining cats and dogs, literally, viewers. So both places, power could go anytime, but we're going to have fun as long as we can. Over to General Ravi Shankar. Let's get the balls to rolling.
Yeah, let's get the thing rolling. And we're going to talk of India's rise despite US and China and all that. But what I'll do is, the Asia Power Index came out by the Lowy Institute in Australia. And I thought, that's a nice benchmark from where we can start. Everyone has been speaking of that, but people have not understood what it contains. So I put a few highlights into it and I added a few issues of my own. And I'll give a presentation maybe about 5-10 minutes and then, we'll discuss around that. And, right? So let's get going. Can I have the presentation, please? Yeah, have a look. This is what we are going through. This is cyclone Ditwa, which it's here. This is the eye of the cyclone. This is the wind chart, and this is the rain chart, and this is Chennai. So heavy rain hitting Chennai tonight, but hopefully by tomorrow evening this will go off. But we're going to talk of India rising now. Well, as the cyclone keeps hitting Chennai, we'll talk of India rising, which is more important. Look, this is very clear. We are growing at 8.2%. In the second consecutive quarter, we are growing at 8.2%. Manufacturing is up 9.1%. Services up 10.2%. This is hell of a lot. Okay. Manufacturing up 9.2%, 9.1% is important. We have a lot of headroom going up in manufacturing. That's the first thing. What's interesting about this quarter growth is the fact that both China and US have been nasty to us, especially US. Despite decrease in exports to US, AWO, all that, we have grown at 8.2%. I mean, just think of it. If this had not been there, where would we? This growth probably would have hit 10%. So there's a vitality about India which you can't stop. And this comes on the back of the first quarter, 8.2. Look, even if for the balance of the year, the next Q3, Q4, you hit only 6%, you will still average 7+%, which is much more than what the rest of the world is doing. And I'll talk of it a little later. Okay, now this is some expression of sum total of what the Lowy Asia Power Index. Look at this. I don't know if it's visible, but it says US is number 1, China is number 2 at 70 odd per thing, and they've classified India. This is India. They've shown it in circles. They've classified India as a major power. It's not a middle power. It's not a superpower. India has been classified as a major power with the power index of 40. And it's going up. That's the important thing. Now, of course, followed by Japan, Russia, and all that. Okay. Now, let me go and highlight a few attributes which is important to understand. Why is India at number 3? Okay, globally. What are the issues which they've taken? They've taken economic capability, military capability, right? And resilience. Okay, future resources, economic relations, defense networks, right? And diplomatic thing and everything. Okay. So they have cultural influence. So these 8 factors have been factored in a manner they've deemed fit to draw out the power index. Important. Now, if I look at this a little more deeply, you look at this, okay? They've said economic capability, we are 3rd, military capability, we are 4th, resilience, we are 4th, future resources, we are 3rd. It's in economic relations and defense network, we are 9th and 11th. We're a little down in this. Okay? But the thing is, even in this, we are in a growing path. It's not in a going down path. Then, of course, defense networks, we are not up to it, and that's our national policy. So we'll never be there. Because we're not going to be allied with anyone. Diplomatic influence, we are fourth, and cultural influence, we are fourth. So you see, in every aspect of that 8 points, you're third, fourth, somewhere or there. Interestingly, what are the changes which have happened? Where have you gained most? You have gained in cultural influences. Interestingly, you have gained in military capability. This is important. You have gone up in the power index because of your military capability and your economic relationship. These are the two pillars on which India is rising. And this is what Rajiv and I have been talking of all the while. India can't be denied because we have changed the equations. Okay. And of course, the rest of the things. Where we lack is defense networks. We've gone down. But the fact is, we don't want to be part of an alliance. Our power doesn't come from our defense networks. So this is always going to be lesser or might even go down. Right? If anything, in the current multilateral global affairs, India will never have good defense networks, and we should not have also. We know how to handle things on our own. Okay. Geopolitical security. You are almost at par with China. Okay. US is far ahead, but geopolitical security almost there with China. And your demographic resources, India is the highest in the world right from now to 2050. China and US pale into insignificance. Okay. And you look at your military posture. Again, if China is at 100, this is Asian military posture, not global. If China is at 100, you're at 93, you're at par. Okay. A lot of people say, oh, China is modern and this and that, great power and all, but your military posture is at par. And this is important. And that is why the Chinese went back at, in Eastern Ladakh. Understand that. They know which is where. Okay. Right. Look at the armed forces. In terms of armed forces, in Asia, India gets the first billing as per this thing. That's what. It's nice to say China this, China that, and all. Our armed forces are rated higher than the Chinese or the US armed forces in this area. There has to be some logic in this. I'm not gone into why, how, but that's their logic, that's their thing. Okay? Yeah. One area where we need to improve is technology. We are far down. We are here. You're 11. Our technology bubble is hardly significant. So there's a lot of headroom to improve in technology. That's why technology manufacturing is good. Just think, our manufacturing grew at 9% and technology we lag. Put these two together and you'll see a different India coming up. And that's the future. And I focus on, what John Spencer wrote in his article. This article is called End of Old Assumptions, What India's Security Paradigm Actually Looks Like. What does he say? Main thing. And this is something which, again, we've spoken, but I need to reiterate it. And I'm sure Rajiv will also talk of it. India has crossed a doctrinal threshold. Major attacks are now considered as acts of war. Zero tolerance to terror and proxy war. No external mediation. This is our new doctrine. We don't need external mediation. Even if it is going to be detrimental to us, like, the aftermath of it, like we've spurned Trump off. Okay. Our approach to treaties has changed. The Indus Water Treaty or the Shimla Agreement, these are no more treaties which bind us. These treaties are there. If others don't behave or take advantage of the treaties, they're null and void. People have to understand that. We have started excising deliberate nuclear ambiguity, both by virtue of inducting new weapon systems and also by our talk. Look, a major issue which we have started. Why I'm saying is this is one, our military power is our anchor of our power index or that power rating. Security has to be, obtained by India, not through others. We don't want others to come and help us. Gone are the days when we said we look towards USA to say, oh, can we start a war? Sorry, whether US or China, it doesn't matter. Anyone talks, you hit him and then talk. We've written a new playbook. And what John Spencer says is the world needs to catch up. A world needs to catch up not in terms of starting a war, but how you terminate a war. It's easier to start a war, but more difficult to terminate it. This is what I said. Your economic engine, which is growing, this is, CEO of Blackstone. He compares all of the countries. You can look at all the countries, flags are there, Spain, Europe, all that. They are hardly growing at 2.5%. You are growing at 7.3% as per him, at that point of time. Today it is much more than that, actually. And in this video, it's a video which I'm not showing. He talks of India's infrastructure which is growing at pace. And this is echoed not by one, by many people. Equally, we hear a lot of nonsense coming, our infrastructure is useless and all from US and Chinese sources. Okay? Especially this left-wing mainstream media, which is, which dominates US, like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. But people who are on ground know that infrastructure is changing at pace. In fact, there's an Israeli who said, look, the India I saw 3 years back is something I can't recognize today. That's the pace of change. Right? Age, demography, which is one of the major things which I spoke of and which is there in that power index. Look, of the 20 countries, top 20 economies, ours is the lowest median age. China has got an age of 40 years median. Now, 5 years hence it will go to 50. Just 5 years hence it is going to shift to 50. China is going to be a country of old people. USA can keep up its age profile because of immigration. But Trump is doing enough to sort that out also. In 5 years, I bet you that USA or no USA, China or no China, the same Asian power index will talk a dramatic set of new numbers. Age and time on our side, not on theirs. Okay. The rest of the countries there are actually should puts. But you'll see them sliding back even faster. That's why I keep showing this. The number of countries with which we have done trade deals or we are in talks with trade deals. I keep showing this almost in every program. It's phenomenal. How many countries are doing this? Willingly, they are coming to India. It's not that we are going there. Okay. Right. So I thought I'll put all these across. And we also have to understand one thing about... thank you. We don't need the slides anymore. One more important thing which we need to understand is that, look, as far as USA and China are concerned, both are sluggish economies today. They're not in great... In fact, they have internal problems. Their militaries have internal problems. If one thing they agree on is that how to stymie India's growth. And they've done it actively, whether it's Trump or Xi Jinping. I mean, look at Xi Jinping and company. They have refused to give us tunnel boring machines and things like that. They have now an active policy to ensure that we don't get technology. They want our markets, but without giving any technology. Right? And they treat us today as a major competitor. Many of us in India don't have the self-awareness that, look, we are now in a different league altogether. Well, this is not to say that we don't have problems. We have tremendous problems. Okay. But one thing I keep reiterating, we are not an aided economy like Japan, Germany, and China were in their rise. We are an opposed economy. We are growing at this pace despite headwinds, despite global headwinds. And this is not going to change. Our problems are not going to run away. There are enough people within this country who talk ill of what is happening. Well, that's a democratic right. But at some point of time, it's going to be counterproductive to those fellows, not to the people who are growing. And that's the majority of this country. I thought I'll put all these across. And back to you, Shreyaji, I'm sure Rajiv and you, I would like your comments also on this as to how we are going. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. General Rajiv, I would like you to go in now, and then maybe I can have my inputs after that. Over to you,
Yeah.
sir.
So there are a few issues which I will tag, about 7, 8 of them. What he told about John Spencer. So what they have started calling it, the Western experts, I would say, that India has moved away from strategic restraint to doctrine of compellence.
Yes.
That you do anything, I am going to slap you so hard that you will be on your knees. That is why you get reports that while Pakistan is being pushed by both US and China to create internal issues, they are trying to look towards our east, to East Pakistan 2.0. But there is a problem they have there. Pakistan is used to utilizing its non-state actors. Now we call it state-owned actors. Since it was formed, I won't call it independence of Pakistan. That is actually the formation day of Pakistan. There was no Pakistan before that. From that time onwards, the use of state-sponsored actors has been in evidence, even in attack on Kashmir at that time, 47, 48. So they have a certain degree of muscle memory to do this. Unfortunately, the people who they're trying to tap on the eastern side have no muscle memory about it. They have no clue of how to go about doing it. And they're not able to understand and grasp how it is done. It's not so simple. Unless he starts sending his state sponsored people into that country to try from that side, which is going to be a big issue. So that is why you find trying to sponsor it internally, using their sleeper cells and other people inside. Next was the mention about infra. 2, 3 things. A, infrastructure like the BRI, which was made just for their sake and had nothing to do with it. The whole infrastructure is being driven by a logical plan. It's an integrated plan as to where your factories are going to come, where are you asking these foreign companies to come, to give them that infrastructure grid. Now, the problem with making infrastructure is always that it takes time to start earning money and become profitable. So for that period, for your banks, it becomes an NPA. I wonder how many of us know that there is a new financial instrument that the government had established. It's called NABFID, National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. It has a capped capacity kept at 1 lakh crores. At the moment, it is already having 20,000 crores and growing. They are the ones who fund bulk of your infrastructure development, and that is why you are able to take it apace. And so when you're making it to a proper plan, like it also includes your Sagarmala, where your ports are supposed to come. So if your port comes, but if your road connectivity, rail connectivity are not there, and the balance of the energy grid is not available to him, energy, water, and everything, then what do you do with that port? So it's all being made to a plan, and that is why people are aghast at the pace at which you're doing, and companies are welcome to come, are happy to come here. So I'll touch upon it a little later. Economy, I wouldn't quite agree with what Lovi has said because of the number of trade deals. So I actually don't know where the cutoff point was. So at what level did they take the cutoff point? When they make the report, maybe 5, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months before, you have a cutoff point. So that's okay. But today you've gone much, much, much further, and which is indicative of your both quarters. The first quarter was 7.8, this quarter is 8.2. And I'll touch upon why the IMF is rating you C and saying you will take 4, 5 years to get to 3, 4 years to get to 5 trillion. You're already at 4.3, and for 700 million, he says it that much. I'll touch on that a little later. But the most important change, apart from the trade deals, because see, in the tariff war, suddenly both US and China are realizing that nobody is talking much to them. Everybody is talking within themselves, and they're talking to India, full stop. Now that is the biggest threat for them, because they had felt that people would start coming and talking to them, which has not happened. The second issue, which is very important, is the spreading footprint of your UPI. You see, sir, basic issue happens is that if you have a fiat currency and it fails, then the thing collapses. So the basic cycle has been combined. Like you militarily dominate, you control trade, and you impose your fiat currency over all the area that you have. And to retain that, you overspend, and then your deficit spending and living beyond your means happens. After that, the currency debasement is your printing of extra currency. You can do that. US broke it away from the gold in 71 to be able to print that extra currency. But then that has its life. 4, 5 decades down the line, the currency starts losing its sheen. And when you try to weaponize that currency, people start losing confidence and search for alternatives. Now, this is the stage at which US is, where people have suddenly started losing confidence. The biggest jolt to US has been that Europe has lost confidence. Now, the international transaction, let us say today, India and Europe, goes through SWIFT. So people need to understand the SWIFT concept. SWIFT, that is that, what is that called? Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It goes through US. So you're going to do it in dollars. Now, why are the people worried? Because A, my bank takes commission. The US bank as an intermediary takes for commission. And it goes to Europe, and whatever bank in that country is there for handling charges, they will also take. Now, when it is me and Europe, why is US coming in and profiting from that? Why is the bank profiting from that? That is where the UPI comes in. So you are working towards a goal where proper multipolarity, no country's currency will be the prime currency. So in this, you have signed up to the Bureau of International Settlements had started work on what is called the Project Nexus. The Eurozone, and now spread to most countries of Europe, have got the target TIPS payment system, interface payment system, which works through their SEPA. Now you are linking, it has already been signed in October last year. Pilot project is about to start, where you're linking our UPI to their TIPS via Project Nexus. Now, why Project Nexus? Because it is the BIS which gives out the daily currency exchange rate. So automatically, digitally, it goes there. Now just look at how threatened US is going to feel, which indicates clearly, last year, October, they have come to you that Europe has lost faith in US. Now, whatever transaction I'm going to do, once it opens out, they are talking in terms of Next year, sometime it will open out. 40 countries are going to join up. So I would say 39 because France has already joined your UPI. 40 countries, and already 18 countries are already there. 9 who have shown interest, which is going to be not 9, about 16 more. That means close to 100 countries are already going to connect to you, and thereafter the African countries, it will spread. So the US banks, the 4 big US banks who are making money on this SWIFT transaction will no longer be able to make any money. So the multipolarity is this. It is not just that you have various groups who are there as a multipolar geopolitically. Geoeconomically also there is no fiat currency. Now that hurts the US maximum. Unfortunately for China, without military dominance, he tried to take control of trade and trade routes in the lesser developed societies, countries through BRI. That's collapsed. So he couldn't even reach, and he created massive trade surplus, which we called overcapacity, for sale to Europe and USA, with whom he took a panga. That he's left holding the baby, which is the trade surplus. And that is where it was, where his economy has taken a big hit. So he didn't even go through the various levels. He's trying to change, but you have actually flipped the playbook completely. Now, in this, the moot question, I would like anyone economist, you are there, sir, and anyone else who's hearing, if this flows out by 2027, hopefully almost about 150 countries will be linked to UPI. That means you are trading in local currency. In what form will you hold your foreign exchange?
Very true. Very true.
That's the moot point. So that is where the US is declining. China never even rose before it declined. Now, demography. Why are they worried about your demography? It is because, and very correctly, he has given you the top ranking in that, because of the skill development. So the base skill is available. Anyone coming in, he doesn't need to give you the base skills. He just builds on this, and within 2-3 months, the person is ready. By the time the factory actually sets up, the person is ready. As far as technology is concerned, the biggest place where we are lacking, when he has shown us at number 11, I would tend to agree with that, in the sense that you are brilliant in pure science. You're woefully short in applied science. And even today, like, your companies will say, no, a person coming from IIT, other technical institutes and other places is not trained properly. Well, the good sir should know that they should tell the institute what they want the person to be trained and come out. If he's coming at MTech, why don't they give the projects that I want him to be trained on this? Why don't they interact with the institutes for the syllabus for applied science portion? They don't do that. Right from the beginning, you have been socialistic. The government has been dictating. Now suddenly you're free. It will take its time, but I'm sure it will happen. But in a small way, it has already started, and I'm sure it will go further. So the basic problem US and China, US is facing, I won't rate China with that, because it's an autocratic society. Now it has become, and they control their business houses, and without the clearance from the state, you can't do anything. But in the US, you suddenly find that the politicians and the US incorporation and Wall Street are not on the same page. The US incorporation and the Wall Street are gung-ho, and they want to come to India and invest in India. And the US politicians, I'm afraid, have not yet grasped the issue that, well, till the 90s and early 2000s, you may have been a big part, which is where I would not agree with the Lowy Institute that US and China are superpowers. I would rate them as big powers. To be able to have and influence the globe, you need the military heft. And if the US is going to think on 5, 6, 7, but how much? Almost about 5 months now on what to do with Venezuela, unthinkable. Last century, they would have gone in by now. They are hesitating still. Now he's threatening him, leave, leave. Why will he leave? Why will Maduro leave? You have your aircraft carrier out there. You're saying, I am imposing a airspace denial, but are you able to control the airspace? Aircrafts will still overfly Venezuela if they have to go from USA or Mexico to Brazil. Are you denying them that? Do you have the capacity to do that? If you don't, and if you're hesitating, ditto with China. With smaller countries, you can press them down, but at the larger issue, at the global issue. So, which is that one point I would say that they are big powers. Yes, you can't keep that apart. They are big powers. Maybe declining, but they are big powers. And I don't think the world today, which is where the disservice is being done, because the world today has no superpower. Unfortunately, the world today has no superpower. They are big powers only. And the earlier the Americans realized that, the politicians, the better for America. Because I'll end with what Lee Kuan Yew's son, the previous Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, had mentioned in July this year. World minus one. That the world can live without US. The US has to decide, can they live without the world? And which is where the biggest question which is facing the USA today. Because suddenly if your UPI connectivity and everything starts off, you're already with the global south, the amount of monies that you're giving to the global south, and I missed out in that, NABFID has now today been authorized to do the infrastructure and development activities in global south. This is over and above the lines of credit to the tune of about, like Africa has got 12 billion over 146 projects which the countries wanted, spread over 42 countries, which is amazing considering that Africa has about 54 countries. You touching that. Latin America, you have given about 800 plus million with similar about 30-40 letters of credit to about 7-8 countries out there. South Pacific, people may not know, the South Pacific Islands, you have given out about 1.2 billion for again about 40-50 projects to the various small countries which are there, which I won't say only South Pacific, which includes Mauritius, Seychelles and all. It comes under the name of Oceania. And then now you have given this. Now this is an open challenge which is coming firstly to China. They had pushed for the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. So one is that, ADB itself, World Bank itself. Now because of these threats, I feel Bretton Woods institutions being based in USA, the politicians have twisted the arm of IMF to say that you are at sea. Now just imagine the only country in the world in this half, if you add the two and divide it by two, both the 2 quarters growth, you are growing at 8%. 7.8 and 8.2 is 16. You're growing at 8%. And the clowns in IMF are saying that you are C and you will take time to grow. So I look at it, that was more of a political statement. And suddenly your 8%, 8.2% growth is like a stinging slap on their face. And which is where today suddenly you find the narrative wars of different types of GDP growth and this GDP growth and that GDP growth and this model and that model. Oh, handsome, where were those when China was growing at, you claiming a 10% growth? Where were all those models going? So these activities will happen. These narratives will come. But despite this, like General Shankar had correctly pointed out, and we keep telling in our shows also, you are growing despite them, not because of them. And that is where they feel very concerned that they don't have any issue available on which to twist your arm. Like China said no to TBM, the German German company is shifting everything here and making it for you. And he's going to make it in India. So, because these, sir, your top hedge funds like Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, let's grant them, they're not fools. They've been minting money. They turnaround is in trillions and trillions of dollars. They've closed shop in China and come and set up your biggest shops in India. So they know something which I think the politicians and in their geopolitics are missing. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, indeed, America could definitely do with a few statesmen. Unfortunately, the few statesmen that I can see in America are people that probably will not get elected to become the president. And there's an individual, I don't know, you may have heard of him. His name is Senator Rand Paul, RAND PAUL. Is a practicing surgeon. He's also a senator. I think his dad was a senator from the same area and same state, and now he's a senator. He's a Republican, but he doesn't go with the mainstream, but he has his own ideas. Truly an intellectual, and America still doesn't really look at him as somebody who is worth listening to. And there are also some other intellectuals. America is also beginning to realize that the so-called Tam Brams are beginning to really set the discourse. I don't know how many of you do have, or viewers also, you follow Balaji Srinivasan. This guy was the founder of Coinbase. He was a CTO for some time. I think now he's settled in Singapore, but he regularly comes on many podcasts, and he has defined a new world order. I don't know how many of us have really understood what he's trying to say. The effect of internet network on how countries perform. And these are all intellectual voices. Whether it was Vivek Ramaswamy's idea to implement DOGE, Department of Government Efficiencies. And then, of course, he said that, okay, I don't think to have much room here. They decided to go to state politics, and Elon Musk took over. Then Elon had to leave because, according to him, he said that the Doge was also helping about 10% Republicans and 90% Democrats, all the slush funds. The 10% was strong enough to push him out. See, this is reality. I mean, there are some good people who can do some things for US, but at some point of time, hard politics takes over. So US is also beginning to grapple with also the other reality that 90% of their equipment, military equipment, the parts are all sourced from China. So if China draws a line, just like the way they did with rare earths, I mean, it's bye-bye time. And they need to really, really start looking at India seriously to start doing some of these must-have arms and ammunition as base to do it in India. Whereas US hasn't realized it, France has. Saffron is going to be built 100% in India. So we have to really start looking. America needs to, not listen to the, especially the Trump inner circle needs to start listening to people like P. Gurus. We are telling you the reality. We don't have any sides here. I'm an independent. I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I see it, I say it. Listen to what we are trying to tell you. I mean, US needs to really get its act together. Now I'm hearing Germany also is going to issue or work with some very high-end arms and armaments with India. So things are really, really beginning to move. Europe realizes that it can no longer place its faith in the United States. And that's why there is so much coming from there. So US has to really introspect. Unfortunately, the people who are capable of doing that are not getting the ear of the president. All we can do is, like I said, be like a thermometer and say that the patient has fever. United States definitely has a fever today. I'll defer back to General Ravi Shankar. Sir, you wanted to add something, General Rajiv?
Yeah. Look, what Rajiv says is absolutely right. I have no doubt about it. But let's focus it slightly from a different angle. You know, the world is changing, and the world is changing at pace. Okay. When you say it's not a superpower anymore, what is a superpower? I mean, let's look at it. You have to understand that. Then you'll see where what Rajiv is saying is right. A superpower is one power which can lay the rules, enforce the rules, and people listen to it. You know, who listens today to China? Who listens to USA? They listen. A chap who's got even Pakistan doesn't listen to China. Look at that. And, and the influence of both these countries is reducing. It's nice to put them in all these think tanks, all that, to say that both these are superpowers because a lot of money is sunk into both these places and they can't, overnight unmake these superpowers. But the fact is, their influence is decreasing. What they say doesn't carry that kind of weight anymore. As simple as that. No one is interested in just listening to them. Right? I mean, just think today the number of wars which are going on, whether it is in Russia, Middle East, East Asia, Africa, are so many, and not a single superpower talks of how to finish them. In fact, these superpowers are the causes of wars. So, why should anyone listen to them? Why are people trying to get away from both of these? So, the age is changing, time is changing. In this change, where will they go? After all, people have to trade with each other. I just heard today Mike Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, saying, he says, look, the age when we had uh, the single market called USA, where we sent our lumber, where we sent our aluminum, where we sent our goods, is over. We have to start living with the rest of the world. We have to stop living with USA as our sole, uh, you know, trading neighbor or trading partner. That's a big shift, and that's going to impact USA. Look at what's happening in China. China's peaked is not an issue. What is China doing in its spat with Japan? It's reviving Japan. People say Japan is old, the fundamental fact is Japan is still a very large economy with a very great high GDP or a PPP, right? And you, or rather, I would say PPP per capita. Per capita. It's got technology, it's got everything. And if Japan gets into the act as it is getting into the act, geopolitically, China will get stuck in one corner of where it is, and that's the end of the story. Already, China always had four fronts. It had the Korean front, it had the Taiwanese front, it had the South China Sea front, and the Indian front. Today, it's added a fifth front to itself in Japan, along the Raikus and the Senkakus. So, the thing is, both these big countries are changing at pace, and they're changing at pace in the declining direction, and they can't recover. They're not going to recover at ease. They'll not. They will still be big economies. They'll still be powerful countries. There's no doubt about that. But they'll not, be that kind of powers which they were once. Now let me come to India. What does India have to worry about? You see, I'd like to see what does India have to worry about. The danger for India comes from Pakistan. Why? Because America and China will use Pakistan as the cat's paw. Will Pakistan affect us militarily? That is a no-brainer. We've already slapped them hard in Sindhu. Problem is they'll create instability in this country. Pakistan has that capability of creating instability in this country. Let's not look at Pakistan as only a military challenge. It's a societal challenge. And we have to handle that. Defeating Pakistan and all that is emotional. But for me, protecting India's growth is more important. So whatever is going to come from Pakistan, whether it's military, whether it is spillover of refugees, whether it is activating the internal links they have in India, and they have, let's not wish it away. Whether it is reaching across to Bangladesh and, like he said, East Pakistan 2.0 or Pakistan 2. Whatever you call it, Bangladesh. Instability is something which will, could destabilize us. And of course, ours is an open democracy. It's a porous democracy. I wouldn't call it even open democracy. That's the danger. So we have to look at it from that point of view. That's the conventional come unconventional. But when you look at it from a strategic point of view, who's the one who poses danger to you? China. Because if India grows, it's at China's expense. India might not grow at US expense. In fact, to a large extent, sooner or later, someone in USA will wake up and say, yeah, look, India and USA are complementary to each other. As Canada is trying to prove and EU seems to have realized. So let's also start switching. US has that capability of switching tracks. You have to give it to US that it has the dynamism. Okay, Trump will be there for 2-3 years more and he'll go. The new guy, like you said, someone will come up. USA has this habit of restituting itself and throwing up good people who will reform USA in a different mold altogether. And that's the way USA has been reinventing itself, right? So USA is not my threat. My major threat to growth, not military, is China. It's China which has got the scale to put spokes in your whole story. It is China which has actually got the thing where it can hurt your manufacturing. It is China which has the capability of flooding your markets out. And that is what we have to go be very clearly. And our government is making some effort to reach out to China to invest. Right? That's the threat. How you handle that is important. Right? How you take measures to ensure that China and its thing doesn't swamp us is the thing which we have to worry about. In terms of lack of technology, what Rajiv says is right. We need to get to applied technology, but we need not be impatient about it. I'm not worried beyond a point. You need to be patient. Anything you do in a hurry will come down in a hurry, like China has realized. Growth of big countries like us shouldn't happen overnight. We are not in competition with China. We are in competition with ourselves. We need a better India, not a stupid China replicated in the form of another India. Right? So I think there are a lot of challenges as we go ahead. Our rise is preordained. I maintain it. No one can stop this rise of ours. Okay? You can't stop 1.4 billion hardworking people achieving what they want to do. And what, again, General Rajiv said is very important. People are qualified. Today there's an aspiration. We feel it. Both of us feel it. We interact with kids. It's not just IITs. We interact with kids across the horizon. We interact with think tanks. We interact with audience, the public through these forums. Right? We get the feel. The feel is the pulse. The pulse of the nation says, look, we want to move ahead. I mean, let me give you go by any aircraft today. Just go by any aircraft in India, Indian carrier. You will find at least 50% of the air hostesses are from the Northeast.
Yes.
Okay? It represents a change. And if you notice, they deliver better. They serve better. Okay, and they are changing Northeast. You go to the services in any major metro service sector. Slowly, the number of people from the Northeast are dominating that sector. So they're going to grow the Northeast at scale. Combine this with our Brahmaputra project and the Northeast Power Grid project, which are going. So sooner or later, through the route of the service sector, money is going to go back into the Northeast. Education is going to go back into the Northeast. Power generation is going to increase in the Northeast. In 5 years, industry is going to come up in the Northeast.
Guwahati has the fab factories.
We have fab factory. Your rare earths are going to come up in the Northeast. That's there where it is the same belt as Myanmar. You get the best graphite in Northeast, in Arunachal. Why do you think China wants Arunachal? Look, today China dominates graphite in the world. I have no doubt. Let's not have doubt about it. But the better quality of graphite, the best quality of graphite is in Arunachal. Right? And as developments take place, your own resources will get tapped. Again, the danger here is don't spoil your ecology. Don't do things which will harm yourself like China has already done. Okay? So these are the challenges. Our challenges are not pure growth. Our challenges are sustainable growth. Our challenges are to ensure that the weakest man in this country has a decent way of life. Our success is dependent on the weakest man or the poorest man in this country. It's not Ambani and Adani being richer. I'm not for one moment saying that we should go the communist route. But even in an open society, a lot of socialism is necessary to bring up our younger people or the weaker sections. And that can be done through education and a lot of things. So I think we have to understand, where we are heading and how we have to change. Right? I had this much. Yeah, back to you, please.
Thank you so much, sir. A few minutes ago, I may have. One second, sir. One second, sir.
Yeah.
A few minutes ago, I think I heard you say restituting. I think you meant resuscitating. I may have heard wrong.
Even restituting and resuscitating have the same connotation. You
No
restitute
worries,
back to your state. No, look, let me explain. We are restituting back to our original form. What is restitution? A ball, I'll explain it in a simple manner. A squash ball, when you hit it against the wall, what happens? It flattens. And then it restitutes itself and gains speed. That's what's happening with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to know if I heard you wrong. Over to you, sir. General Rajiv.
Yeah, just basically 2 points. One is that why are you such an attractive market globally? Because you have over close to 68% of your GDP comes from internal consumption. So which is telling, because if any company comes and sets itself up here, it knows that at least he is assured, if he is competitive enough, he is assured around 60 to 68% of his items being sold here, and he only needs to look at about between 32 to 40% for exports, out of which even if he gets 50%, he is gung-ho that well over 70% of my product has been sold. The balance I can knock it off in sale. So that is the reason why they are gung-ho, because that is the kind of internal consumption you are bringing to the table, which is at par with what US has. Despite India not living in the credit way, most of us live in the debit way, use debit card and not credit card. That is one singular point which makes this market so attractive. So I missed the second point. When I get it back in my mind, I'll come back to you.
Absolutely.